Welcome. This is Greater-Rochester-Camera-Club. It is March 26, 2025, and this is our monthly critique on off-camera lighting. We are excited to see some people here tonight. We don't have very many images in. Ben's got some ideas of why we only have only six tonight. Want to jump in, Ben?
Sure. So it's absolutely understandable to not have a lot of images for this. It's not a traditional theme challenge that we're used to. And I think the main distinction is most of the challenges that we get are something that you keep in mind while you go out and about and do your usual photographing. Whereas the challenge of creative lighting kind of requires you to create something instead of just finding something. Um, you've got to kind of get an idea of something new and put some tools to use to create it. So it's certainly um, a different kind of challenge for a lot of people, whether it's, a limitation of equipment, a limitation of idea, or workspace. There's so many things that can factor into it. And kudos to everyone who stepped up and were able to create something. And even if you didn't, if you even were thinking about it, if you were having ideas, even if you didn't get to execute them, kudos to you as well. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
Great point. It's a different mindset for sure, making the time and the space to get the image taken. So thank you
Yes.
for noticing that. And it is a big risk to put your image in for something that if you're not used to doing off-camera lighting or creative
Yeah,
lighting.
it's also equipment too. I don't think everybody's got flash or multiple flashes to set
Mhm.
it up and do it.
Yep.
Everyone has a camera, basic semi-wide to semi-tello, go out and shoot trees, fish, water, movement, whatever. Um, this required a little more specialty and equipment, I think, to do it.
Yep.
I hope we do this one again because I have all this gear and I'd be happy to have somebody come over and, we can play with it together.
That's a
Yep.
great idea.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. I love that, Dan.
That's a great
I was
idea.
telling Ben before this meeting started that I learned so much. I know that I said this in the meeting too, but I learned so much from him at the fair. And I only had one light, and I was like, I really need multiple lights because I want to do this. And Ben was like, you actually do not need multiple lights. Uh, you can take
Yeah.
multiple exposures and move the light, and now you have one light and you can light the subject how you need.
Oh,
It was
Depending on what depending on what you're shooting, that can
right,
come
Yeah.
into
for
play.
sure,
Always dependent. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah,
My image, that's no way.
yeah, yeah,
Would work.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. There's limitations, but it was pretty amazing to me. Like it was magical. I was like, oh, okay, I
Yeah,
can
it's the
save a
same
couple
as
hundred
light painting.
dollars.
The
yeah.
concept of light painting. You can light anything, paint it around, create layers with multiple photos, and then layer them on top of each other.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all he's talking about.
yeah.
And
So,
and like I covered towards the end of my presentation earlier this month, you can do a lot with really basic tools and creative techniques. So multiple exposure using flashlight,
Yep.
um, a flashlight through a piece of paper for diffusion, the screen of a tablet. There's so many things you can do. It just takes creativity, experimentation, and effort. Um, so I think that's probably the biggest roadblock that a lot of people hit.
mhm.
So, but yeah, again, kudos to everyone who submitted, and kudos to everyone who were just thinking about it. You know,
Good.
if you get into that mindset of, oh, this looks interesting, but what if I kill the lights and change this light up somehow? It could be even more interesting. So, yeah.
I think that's one of the greatest parts about being in a camera club is that we share these things, these ideas, and we grow as photographers. And it's when somebody can show us this idea of you can light it different ways, and then Sarah, you just shared an experience, and Dan's like, wait a minute, that's a great idea, and that just
Mhm.
spreads like wildfire. And that's part of the reason why our camera club is just great community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Dan, I'm really excited. I would love to get together and play with equipment and figure out what we can do. I think that's another part of the camera club that I love is when we get together.
Yeah.
All
And
right, we'll
on
make a
that note,
date.
yeah, there you go. On that note, we have an outing scheduled for May 18th. I think that's the only one currently that we have on the books.
Yes.
We are going to Studley's Florist in Rochester. They are gonna. Did you get in touch with them today, Sarah, by any chance?
I didn't get in touch with her today, but
No worries.
it's first thing in the morning. I'm going to get in touch with her.
No worries. So we have in the past they've let us use the greenhouse after hours so that we can spread out and set up tripods and we're not in anybody's way. So we're going to double check on that. So if that's the case, it would be from 1 to 4 o'clock. And based on how wonderful the fair was, and then doing a little mini lesson within our table area, we've taken that idea and I'm going to run a macro workshop within the Studley's photography outing. So it'll be like,
where is this on? It's May 18th, you said?
May 18th. So we'll get a flyer out. We just found out yesterday. So, and that's going to be Studley's is on Wakefield Street in Rochester, near the Governor's Inn, like right next to the Governor's Inn. Cool. And then, like, they're great. Like, you can literally take the flowers out of the coolers and photograph them as long as you don't damage them. They don't mind if you mess around with their stuff and rearrange things. They're great with people. And then I think, do we have something else coming up for a trip, Sarah? No, we were just talking about the show. We'll get you some show details. We're doing some, I'm waiting to hear back from Chris, who owns Riverstones, and this shop isn't open until tomorrow. So I should hear from her tomorrow, I hope. That's it for me. Anything else, Sarah?
No, I think you covered a lot of it.
All right. Our next in-person meeting is going to be Lisa Sherliff, and she's going to be presenting on how to get your images ready for show. There's lots of questions, and in an affordable way. She's going to try and give you some cost-saving tips. And no, the flyer was emailed out, but apparently I think I forgot to put a Facebook event, so I'll get that out as well. But if there's nothing else, then we can get started. Just a quick reminder, you have about 30 seconds to introduce your image, and then we will give you some feedback and critique, if you'd like, on your image for about 5 minutes. We don't really need to set a timer because there's only 6 or 7 images, but I'll set it anyways. We'll see if we need additional minutes, it won't be a big deal.
All right, you should all be able to see the desktop.
We can.
All right. First up, we have Michael Griffin.
Whoa.
Oh,
That's fantastic.
It's a 2-light setup. F8, 1000 shutter speed, ISO 100. And the ball is live being pitched into him.
That's amazing. It really froze the ball.
Yep. Well, the strobes will do that. But
Yeah.
1000 helps. Yeah.
Wow.
It's something the ball player wanted pictures of. So we photographed him. He's a catcher.
How close were you to him?
It's a 60 millimeter lens, 35 format. So I was probably 6 feet, 7 feet in front of the camera to the glove. I shot at a lot of different angles and widths. I was in there with a 16 millimeter lens as well, drawing different stuff, but it distorted too much. So we came back to a 60.
You obviously trusted the pitcher.
No, it was someone standing behind me, basically throwing it underhand, just lobbing it in. It wasn't a full. It was set up. This is all staged. It's a shot bright, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, full sunshine.
Nice.
How
I love
powerful?
that too. I love that fact because it looks like it's darker, you know. So I wouldn't have
Mhm.
guessed like the full sunshine.
Yeah.
That's
So, yeah, you just
What-
deal with. Go ahead.
What were you using for lights? Basically, what was the power rating of the lights you were using?
They were two Westcott Pros, 400 watt seconds. They were down around 6, so that's 9 to 8 is half, 8 to 7 is a quarter, 7 to 6, so an eighth power on them. So 1/8 times 400, 1200 watt seconds. One was with a softbox, 36-inch softbox, and the other one was a metal reflector. Softbox is on the front side, so you don't get as hard of lines on his face. He kind of wraps the line above and below. And the metal reflector was on the back side, if I remember right.
Is the 1000 ISO to make the background dark? Is that what
No,
you
it's
use it for?
100 ISO. The shutter speed was
I mean, sorry.
1/1000th.
Sorry, that's what I meant. I'm sorry, shutter.
Yep. Yeah, you basically you set your exposure for the ambient, what you want to do. So that's underexposed about 3 stops.
Okay.
And then you bring in the lights to bring it to where you want to be for your aperture.
Were those high-speed sync?
Yeah, there's in high-speed sync.
Yeah.
My only suggestion
any-
is a little bit of space on the foot and the top of the head if you could have. A
Yeah,
little tight.
that's the way this one was shot. So
Yeah.
like I said, I got other versions of it. He just liked this one. So this is the one I did up.
And you know what?
Fit
That's
his
the
4x5,
most important
fit
one.
his 4x5 format that he wanted for his social media posts.
Great.
The look of concentration in his eyes is fabulous.
Yeah, because he's focusing on the ball. So you can
Yeah.
kind of a clue that it wasn't photoshopped in after the fact, plus the way the lights are hitting it. But
Yeah.
True. Yep.
that's my little toy.
I like it.
I always enjoy seeing your photos, Mike. It's fascinating, what you capture.
Thank you. Down season, waiting for softball to start, motocross to start. Baseball finished 2 weekends ago now. So, basketball finished rather.
I was gonna say,
In
where was
between
baseball
sports.
finishing?
What's that, Robin?
Where was baseball finishing? I'm like, I thought it was just starting.
Yeah, basketball was finishing, baseball starting. I'm backwards. I need some rest.
Conference weekend will do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it was basketball playoffs leading up to that. We shot every game in the playoffs. So 2 games a night for 2 weeks in a row,
Oy.
traveling even to different gyms on some of them. So it was busy.
Oh
And
my
then you got to come
gosh.
back and edit and put them up that night. So I'm midnight, 1 in the morning, still going through the edits to push up to the website. And then turn around and be at work at 7 in the morning. So
Oh my
it catch-
goodness.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Does anybody else have anything we want to add for this image, however? Awesome.
Other than it's amazing, no.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was a great.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, Monique.
Ooh, food. It's
Ooh, I
life.
like that.
Yes.
So Bill brought home these really gorgeous pears, and I was like, oh, I totally need to go photograph them. And I've been looking at a lot of food photography, and I don't put enough shit in my images. So I tried to put some shit in there, like some flowers that were dried in my closet, and the knife, I just thought it was too shiny. But working on like adding additional elements to help tell the story. Not re- the colors went nicely together, so that's where I went with. I lots of trial and error, like setting up the light. Where does it look good? How to get it closer, get it further away. It does have a grid on it. I forgot about the water droplets part until almost I was finished. And so then I went back and reshot them. So it definitely looks better with the water droplets on it than without.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love the water droplets. And that's just water.
Yep, literally just like in a tiny little spray bottle.
Yeah.
And you must have shot with a macro.
I did. I'm assuming, and I imagine. I don't know.
You've got a
Ben, can you see
you've got a
my
very
settings?
very shallow depth of field, so I would assume, but it doesn't look like the lens info is in here.
Oh, oh, I can look. It has to be. See, I say that, but the lens behind me is not a macro. Oh, you know what? It 100% was. I took my macro to my parents. Yeah, it definitely was.
What's the reflective piece in front of the apples running horizontally? What
It's
is
a
that?
knife.
It's a butter
Okay.
knife.
It's a knife. I did tone it down a little bit, but it's still really shiny.
Yeah, just my eye keeps popping between that and the apples, but I love the apples.
They're pears, actually.
Oh, pears. Okay. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking red apples, but yeah, they're shaped like a pear now that you say that.
yeah. They were just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
If the
Yeah,
knife
and
was at a little,
they have unique coloring.
if the knife was at a little bit of an angle, it it could have done something different.
Right.
I
I was
agree.
thinking that maybe if the knife was going towards those flowers, kind of, I don't know,
Might
like
lead.
if
Yeah,
it
Yeah.
was turned.
if you had the knife going, maybe like this,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have made a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
Yeah. It took me a while it would have taken me a little bit longer if you hadn't clued me in that it was a knife. It's like, oh,
Knife, yeah.
cool shiny thing in there, but what is it?
So maybe even if the serrated part was facing out, it might have helped.
Hmm.
Yeah. To me, it was the fine line an inch from the tip. You get bright and then you get a dark swath to it. So I was trying to figure out what it is, but it's probably a reflection.
Yeah.
That's what
Right.
was
It is.
throwing me. If it was shiny all the way
Yeah.
across, okay, a knife would have come quicker, but it's just,
yeah. So
Yeah.
this piece here is a reflection of this pair,
yeah.
and then you have the shadow separation, and then into that pair.
Look how crisp that is.
Or a paring knife would have been different as well.
Yeah. Looks pretty good.
Did you intend for that pun?
Paring knife. It was fun.
Yeah.
Now, what did you use for your background, Monique?
That is like a 3/4 panel. Well, you can't really fix something else in the way. Just a black wraparound, 3 sides. And
Okay.
then the floor is also black. And then I just put slate.
Yeah.
Lots
Kind
of
of like
black.
what's on the shelf behind you. You got something black hanging there on that shelf.
Yep. If I
Wrap
take
around.
the sky down,
Yeah.
you'll see it's just the black.
And that's easily just poster board.
Piece of poster board, craft board. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually bought a black foam board today.
So 3
Nice.
sides. And I use it, and then I can also hang paper from it. It really helps to block out the rest of the light in the room and really control where I want the light to come in. And so this was this lighting setup was obviously to the side. I had one side open and then I was standing on the other side.
Yeah.
I
But it
like
was
the nice
definitely,
contrast. I like the nice contrast with the colors too. That yellow flower makes it really pop.
Mhm. I was just thinking something very similar to that. Really nice.
thank you very much. All right, that was my timer as well. So good timing.
All right. Next up, Robin.
Oh, look at that. That's me. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I didn't get creative. I wanted to get creative, but I lost the creative juices. So I just decided to go with the more traditional. This was my grandmother's teapot, and I always loved it when I was a kid. So I figured I'd use that with a bagel.
Oh,
Um, I was really hoping that it was going to be a sunny day when I did it because it was on my dining room table and I have my nice big windows there that would help assist. But of course, it was a cloudy, overcast, rainy day. So I just ended up using two different softbox lights, one from the side, one the right side, and one actually behind me turned a little bit lower just to get more of a light in the front. And then I had every light on in the downstairs.
Okay. What inputs do we have? What do we like?
The texture and
What
the
do we love?
bagel, there's lots of things to like look around at.
I think
There's
I think the
not a lot of,
composition is in a good place, yeah.
but there's
I just
not a
like the
lot of
blackberries.
highlights.
Give me the blackberries. Let me eat them.
I wish I
like
took
the
one of the black. I wish I took one of the blackberries off of the spoon so that it fell, but I was actually working really hard to keep them on there. And then like afterwards, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, it would look better if it fell one fell off. But I
I would be
actually tried.
curious.
I
Go
did
ahead.
try it once. I did try it once trying to do it with macro and do focus stacking. But it was too dark and I just didn't like it. So I ended up not doing macro and did it with not out focus stacking.
So you said you had two soft boxes and the rest of the room lights were on.
Yes.
I'd be really curious to see what it would have looked like with the rest of the room lights off. I
Yeah,
think you
I
could
would
You
have.
have
don't you
you could have had some interesting separation and some perhaps more dramatic light to it.
You know, it's kind of funny because I did shoot it originally with all the lights off, and I'm like, oh, there's way too many shadows in it. I can't have all those shadows. And so I actually redid it, turning on all the lights.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be curious to see what it looked like. Um,
Yeah, I have them.
So
Yeah,
Ben, would this be
I
considered
think for
flat
me
lighting?
Go ahead,
I would
Sarah.
like to see the separation of the teapot, sorry, the like the top of the teapot in the background. I would like to see that separated a little bit more. Like it feels like it's focused on the same, I don't know if I have like the technical terms for it, but it's kind of just comes together as one instead of separated for me.
Right, your
Yeah,
depth of
you.
field's falling off. The bagel's and nice and sharp. Then the
Mhm.
front of the pot is so-so, and then you get to the top of the pot, it's getting out of focus, which then merges in with the background paper or whatever that is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
you
go
know,
ahead,
it's funny.
Monique. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Robin.
Rob.
I was just gonna say when I did the focus stacking, it was all in, but there was just something off when it was all in focus. So I
Mm.
did it several times.
No,
Oh,
it's all part of the creative process and playing with different
Yeah.
concepts and different things. And what one person, oh, that's great. Another one say, well, could I have done it this way? And everyone
Hmm.
approaches things
hmm
differently, and that's art.
yeah.
Okay.
You do it,
Monique had
you do it
something.
yourself.
Monique had something, and then I'll have a comment on the focus stacking.
I was wondering, would this have been considered like flat lighting? So it's this. So Robin, also got into the same habit of like not thinking that shadows should be in there. And so when I'm trying to consider like embracing shadows, would this be considered flat lighting then?
Hmm. So shadows, You don't need to shy away from shadows. Shadows give you separation and contrast and make things a little more interesting as long as they're, used well. Regarding stacking, um, all depends on how much you actually keep. Because if you take a focus stack that goes from, all the way to the very background and all the way to the very foreground and put all of that together, then the whole thing is in focus. And that can give that it doesn't feel quite right image. Um, but when you have all of those individual photos, you can decide which ones you don't want. You can tweak the range of the focus that you want in the final image just by not combining the ones that you don't want. So keep that in mind. And
Yeah,
since you
that's a
have
good
all of
thought.
those images, you can do it multiple times and decide what you like.
I like that idea.
That's kind of like the similar idea of using the light to take multiple photos. That light
Mhm.
painting idea again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
A
I
few a
love
few
the tea.
minor. Go
I
ahead.
love the teapot, but I expect to see the bagels on a plate.
Yeah, I just didn't have a nice plate to put them on.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of ways you could change this and make it more interesting, or you could mess with it and make it less interesting. But it's something to experiment with.
Yep.
A couple minor technical things I would point out. Um, it may be worth getting rid of some of these hot spots that you've got.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. I didn't even notice that.
Um, and I see you did some masking to probably adjust the exposure.
Yes,
Um,
because the table was too light and I missed that spot.
yeah. So something I would say is, always pay attention when you're going to do masking around things, make sure you do a good job of it. Otherwise, you have stuff
Oh,
where
yeah,
you
look at that.
have weird missed spots.
Yep.
I always hit that button and it's never what I want it to do. Um, like there's some here on the spout and there's even a weird one up here. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. If you're going to do masking, make sure you do it uh, as well as you can.
Now, do you think that if I had had the one light, the table would have been a little bit lighter and I could have avoided some of that?
Really hard to say
Mm.
without seeing it.
Depending on where your light was positioned
Yep.
and how close your table was to the wall, those are all factors. So if your table's got some good distance from the wall and your light was up close, it should be less
Yeah.
drop off. I mean, more drop off of the light.
Yep.
So you
And
put
also
in your
just
background a little darker.
and also, how dark is your table actually?
It's that dark.
So, okay.
And the
Yeah, it
light was
really
just hitting it.
depends.
Yeah, it was just the way the light hit it. Like so in the front, which I cropped out, it didn't change the color, but in the back it was just too light.
Hmm. Yeah, it's something you would just have to play with to figure out what works best.
And maybe in the future, take a picture of your behind the scenes, and then we could talk about like where your lights were and maybe make additional suggestions that way.
Perfect.
Kind of an interesting, that would be an interesting challenge to do,
Yeah,
to show like a before and after thing.
I would agree. We should write that down. All right, that was
Yep.
5 minutes or so.
All right. Next up, Elaine, who I don't believe
Ooh,
made it.
Yeah, she said that she couldn't get the hotspot to work, so she
No
sadly could not
worries.
make
I saw this online.
Yep.
it's
It looks great.
beautiful.
it.
I like the
Mhm.
color.
Right, so we don't get any behind the scenes, but based on the title, I'm assuming this is a CD or DVD disc.
Oh, okay.
What's the
And if
title?
you've ever,
Dark table. Oh no, that's the program.
I forget.
Oh,
It
okay.
is disc lights. But yeah, so we've got, some water spray and a large droplet on what appears to be a DVD. If you've ever looked at a DVD, you know that they do fun things with color spectrum. Um, Based on these highlights on these ridges that you would find towards the center of the disc, the light is off to the side somewhere.
And I do see some lights in the droplet itself. There's
Yeah, if you look at
several.
the catch lights, there's at least 3 lights in there.
I'm curious. I don't want to confirm that there's 3 lights. Um, I'm gonna say there's definitely one off on the left high because these look like shadows of these droplets on a underlying layer of the disk. Um, but it's possible that with a droplet like this, there could be multiple bouncing reflections happening to give you multiple catch lights like that.
Yeah,
I
just you got 2 identicals on the left. So that could be depth of the water giving the 2, which is why I said 3. You get 2 big ones on the left and the one on the right, totally opposite.
Yeah.
What time was your meeting at?
But yeah, very interesting. I would honestly, I would crop this, I think.
Sarah, was your meeting at 7:30?
it was at 7:30, yeah, so it was 5 minutes
Right.
ago.
I just sent her a
Um,
message. How many lights?
I like what's going on with the color, but I think the position of this up here is too big and distracting and in a weird spot. And if we were to just cut it down like that,
You get still got the color in the droplet. A little more
yeah.
moody.
I like the stripe going up out of the top as well as the bluish one coming off to the left behind that big bubble. Just make your eye go a couple different ways. Interesting, but like that flare up top. Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love rainbows, so I love this one. And the more rainbows, the better.
Okay, what other inputs do we have?
I think the detail in the water droplet is amazing. It's fantastic. They're sharp. Little ones up, in the red band. It's some really nice looking water droplets over there. Like they were a little sharper before.
Yeah, those are really, it's kind of fascinating just this up close, like looking at the little bubbles. It's really neat.
Mhm.
I could study them for a while.
Pretty fascinating.
I just want to know how she got one big bubble and then the really fine mist on the background or underneath it. What she did to make that happen.
You could probably get away with you spray down the whole thing and
And then put
then
an
maybe
eyedropper and
use
drop bigger
something.
bubbles
Yeah, you could use like an eyedropper. I think given how there's a lack of droplets around it,
around it. Yeah.
maybe something like a cotton swab or a toothpick to sort of start pushing around some of the smaller bubbles until they combine.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the disc was tipped because there's some bigger bubbles on
Perhaps.
the other side.
I'll have to ask her how she did it.
Yeah. What other inputs?
Well, I like the way the depth of field is very tightly controlled. The large, the largest droplet is very clearly in focus from, the whole thing. So she met the band of what's the technical term for the short range where the whole thing is where it's in focus. It's very well controlled.
Yeah,
Depth
the
of
the
field.
shallow depth of field.
Yeah.
I'm noticing it's shot at 6400 ISO, and I'm wondering if it's definitely a macro lens,
Yeah.
f13. Um, and with a macro lens, you have to pay close attention to how big that depth of field is, because if you start getting to the wider open apertures, it gets ridiculously narrow. Um, I wonder if some other exposure settings would have changed the look of this or made it different in some way. I'm curious. And I'm wondering if she was stuck with some of these settings based on the light that was available.
Mm.
But regardless of that, it's, well executed. I like it.
Yeah. She left us
Very
with a lot of
creative.
questions.
All right. Any other inputs?
Good job, Elaine.
All right. Moving on. Dan Calmly.
Oh.
Cool.
Oh. Okay, we're not supposed to talk. Sorry.
This was purely an exercise to see if okay, I went to the NHPPA conference. Um, our new NHPPA president, Don Chick, said, all right, challenge yourselves to do at least one thing, within the next 2 weeks that you learned about today. So that's what I did. There is a 36-inch octabox providing the light, and a high-speed sync flash, probably 500th of a second, probably f8, ISO 800, and did I export the tech info or
Negative.
leave it out? And f11, so I didn't have to worry about, I'm holding on to the shutter release, and we just tried a bunch of different poses, and you know played with it in Lightroom enough to put a little detail on the shadow side of our faces. And yeah, this was a technique that Esteban Gil demonstrated for us. So it's like, well, let's see if I can do it. It's
Yeah.
hard to do with a 36-inch octabox. I that's really, I cropped a lot out, and anyhow, it was fun. Um, there's a couple of stray hairs that I probably should have edited out, but yeah, my wife and I had fun taking pictures here.
It looks like that.
Bravo.
I titled this "Sharing a Laugh."
Very good.
You should send it to Esteban.
Yeah,
You should.
Yeah.
He would be delighted.
So if anyone's wondering, when he says, the challenge of using a 36-inch octabox, 36 inches, that's 3 feet. That seems like a lot. Uh, when it's a circle and you're trying to make a square image, uh, the your lens focal length and the distance to the softbox makes it real small, real fast. So you probably have to get that either using a longer focal length or having the light very close to the subject to be able to fill those corners.
I
Uh,
see.
I ended up shooting this. I got a 24 to 105 zoom, and I think I was set at about 50 millimeter focal length for this. I was shooting in a very cramped space to do this. Yeah, I would have much rather have done it with, at a longer focal length, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
I love that you've got that solid white, but you've got just enough detail in the shadows that it's still there. You can still make things out.
yeah. It
Uh,
it was a little bit awkward with the pose. We have both angled our heads 5 or 10 degrees um, off toward the light, so that we'd get the light on our cheekbones that are away from the light.
yeah, that's a good move that uh,
Cool.
would have been difficult to think of uh, if you're not thinking about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I could see in the viewfinder the first ones the shadow side was just flat. And I was like, no, we want a little detail here. And I was there behind the camera is a neutral gray door, and I thought that it was going to reflect enough light back, but there wasn't. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would
Hey,
love to
Dan.
see you share this on Facebook too to inspire some people on our people, uh, like our people show that's
oh
coming up. I think that this is a good example of sharing a story through with people in it.
Great idea.
Dan, were you at the convention on Saturday?
yes.
Like, and you said you had space limitations, but using the diffuser from his softbox, using that as your white background, and then putting the flash a few feet behind that might have given you a more even white light across it.
Mm. Yeah, that was something I
Helped with the
struggled with
corners.
because it's the center of the light is at our teeth, and yeah, it's gray up at the top.
Yeah.
One of the things that I
Mhm.
wanted to do, this is with a just the regular lens on my flash. I'd wanted to do it with the bare bulb um light source, but
Yeah.
I couldn't it wouldn't fit in the flash
In the
adapter.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll play with that a little more and see if I can.
Yeah.
I would like. I haven't figured out what the difference is between the more focused lens versus the bare bulb, but I would like to become proficient at understanding the difference between the two.
Yeah, it's more diffused and spread out with the bare bulb because it goes everywhere. Whereas you got
Yeah.
the reflector on it is taking all the light and giving you more power, but in a more confined beam. So it
Yeah.
falls off quicker on the outside.
Mhm.
Yeah. So these are the refinements that I am seeking to master.
Yeah, we play around, try different things, and see what
Yeah.
happens, and share ideas and
And then try to remember what the heck I did so I can repeat it.
behind the scenes
Yep.
photos. Take
That's
your
Behind the scenes
phone
photos
and
and a
take
notebook.
pictures of how you set up your lights, and
Yeah.
then make notes on them as to what you did. I do it all the time when I'm playing around because I don't remember. My brain's gone.
You and me both.
Yep.
All right. What
Oh,
other
they're
inputs
not
do we have?
spectacular.
Is that time?
It is. We could keep
All right,
going forever.
excellent.
I mean, I could just look at this picture for a really long time, Dan. It is delightful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And we just sort of stood in front of the camera and mugged.
And how long did it take you? How much time did you put into it?
Um,
How
actual
long did she
shoot.
put up with it?
Yeah.
Someday I will tell you the story of my wife's support for my photography. Not here, not now. We'd run out of time. But she knows I love doing this, and she supports me. So it's like, let me see. I would say we spent 30 minutes in front of the camera and the between the camera and the lights.
That's
If
not
That's not
bad.
bad.
if that.
That's great.
That's a good job.
Thank you.
All right. Next and final, I believe, is Kate Wilcox.
Oh, maple sugar season.
Yes. I love
Yeah.
how the maple syrup is up there and it's all different shades.
Kate, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this?
Those particular bottles, there's one bottle for every time they boil. So usually there's the ones that are on the right, the 10 that are there are probably from this year. The season starts with the light and then gets darker. So this has a light, just a room light, a bare bulb that's off to the behind his right shoulder about 6 feet.
So this is lighting that was in place.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's off camera lighting, but I didn't put it there.
Yep. There's that wonderful technicality we talked about at the
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But the
great.
light was able to catch the steam, which was really nice.
I love shooting in this particular sugar house because I love the light in the sugar house. But they are also friends, so they let me do whatever I want.
So what inputs do we have? What do we like?
I like the colors.
I
And
love
the
the
only thing
colors.
that it's, oh, sorry.
Oh, I the my next door neighbor also has a sugar house, so I love the feel of the space. I mean, it's just warm and it would be a great picture for the last theme, warm, because we got all that wonderful warm water vapor coming up off the thing there, and obviously it's warm because the guy's in his t-shirt. But the textures and the process. I mean, come on, we're all from New Hampshire here. Maple sugar season is a big deal.
Mhm.
Another good one for people.
Yep. I have a couple of inputs.
I do too. Would you have considered cropping it just a little, a bunch tighter? Like I love the detail, the texture of the stainless steel bath there, but you've got a huge bright area on the lower right side that pulls away from his face. And I was
From
just
the
wondering
window. Yep.
whether you
So
could
this
maybe have put in a I'll talk in I work in Lightroom. I would have masked his face and tried to make his eyes, nose, and mouth a little bit lighter so that the highlight on his right cheek doesn't overpower all of that. Just to brighten his face just a little
Uh-huh.
bit. I think you could do it without and still keep it looking very natural. Because there are a lot of individual elements of this, but some of them are brighter and take away from like his
Yep.
face and other stuff.
So crop wise, this window edge over here
Yeah.
Yep.
is a distraction. Um, this shadow loop over here
Uh-huh.
and ultimately this whole brighter face of beam are a little distracting.
And even the
Uh,
fact that the beam is not straight.
and that's arguable. Distortion is acceptable, depending on, preference and how much of it there is. Um, but I think just by taking off that window and, some of that and tightening in a little bit,
Uh-huh.
we're still working with rule of thirds here quite adequately, actually. Um, we still have, the jars up here at the top, though, depending on how someone feels, they might say that's a distraction, but I think it, fits in with the rest of the bright on this side of the frame.
And it tells
Yeah,
part
and
of the story.
It tells the
right, I was
story. It
gonna
gives you the
say that. I
environment.
mean, if you're
Yeah.
not from New England, you might not know what he's doing if
Yeah.
they weren't there.
True.
We do have nice separation with the light and dark, separating this from the rest of the background. Um, the other technical thing that I would point out is there's some severe chromatic aberration going on a lot of these edges. Uh, I'm not sure if that's a lens thing or a conditions based thing. I would say it's probably a lens thing. Um, but there's usually an easy to use
Yep.
tool in Lightroom or otherwhere that can help reduce that stuff. I'll turn this up a bit. So you can see the before and after here with that.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing particularly the purple on these edges and the cyan on these other edges.
Cool.
Of course, doing something like that, you have to pay careful attention to what else it might be affecting. I notice it's heavy up on these little jars. Um, and it takes some of the color out. So a little bit of detailed masking, you could probably prevent it from affecting that color.
Cool.
And depending on what software you're doing it in, it may or may not affect various things. What else do we love about this?
Uh, uh, there's so much to love, but I just want to point out one other technical thing.
Mhm.
Over the young man's right shoulder, it looks like the burning in the window is not completely uniform. It looks like the 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 top of that tree over his shoulder is dark, but if you go farther down in that pane, yeah, keep going. Yeah, it's a little bit light there. It'll be try to keep that uniform.
Did you do anything with that? Otherwise,
Uh,
I'm inclined to think maybe that's like a fog on the window.
yeah, I did not do it.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm judging it by the way mistakes that I have made in the past in Lightroom.
Uh-huh.
There you go. We are over 5 minutes. We can keep talking about it if you'd like, but
I love that there's a highlight from the light coming in from the windows on his hair, giving that a good separation. It might need to be toned down a little bit depending on taste, but I couldn't say for certain.
I like
Also, if
it.
you
I like it the way it is right now because the steam is really creating it soft over, a lot of that just the smoke is creating it to be soft. So that gives it kind of a nice definition for me.
also, I don't know how you people in New Hampshire do it, but when I grew up in Upper Michigan, we would keep a mug and some mint tea handy, and we'd dip it into the boiling sap well before it was syrup and use that to make maple mint tea.
Ooh,
Yes, there are a number of people who still do that around here.
All
thank
right,
you,
that is
Kate,
our
very
final
much.
image.
We did pretty good with 5 images there are some great images to talk about.
There was a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm looking at them all and I'm like, oh, this was a good one. It was definitely a risk. It was hard. It was, planning and preparing, but I think it was worth it. I think this was probably one of the most technical conversations we've had at a critique in a long time, which was really nice.
I only threw mine there in the beginning as a placeholder. So
I thought that looked familiar. Haven't we seen that one before, Ben?
yeah. Do you want to see it again?
Yes,
I'd
please.
gladly
Lots
show
of
you.
places. Yeah. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you. When are we coming back? In real life, I don't even know. I love that picture.
It was such a
Thank you.
that was a fun night.
We should do that again.
I agree.
Yes, definitely.
And I will happily bring several bags of lights for people to play with.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe bring some lights to the macro workshop if we do that. If anybody's going to come.
Yeah.
Lights
Yeah.
are good for that. All right. Well, enjoy your evenings. Get out a little bit earlier
Yes.
than usual.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for contributing. Makes for a fun night.
And it was some great pictures.
Mhm.
And again,
thank you.
kudos to everyone who, stepped up and made the time to create something.
And for joining, even if you hadn't created, because your support is also appreciated. All right. We will see you on next month for getting your images ready for show.
Perfect.
All right. See you soon.
Look forward to seeing
Hasta la
everyone.
vista.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.